Hi, this is Cindy from VintageToNew. Today I'm going to walk you through just some really basic beginning steps in how to free motion quilt. These are some things I've learned over a few years of doing this, and I hope you find them helpful to you. So without delay, let's get started right away. Let's just get started learning about free motion quilting. And this is what was helpful for me. In your mind, let's pretend this is the piece that you're going to quilt, and it can be any size, but in your mind, divide it into quadrants like that, okay? Because what I have found is when I started doing free motion quilting, and still today, you will kind of come up with your own little random squiggles that you'll make when you're going, and you have to be able to make all these little lines without crossing back over each other. All right, and some of my favorites are pieces that look like puzzles, where you'll come up and around and down and fill in this area and around. But what I notice is, do you see how I'm kind of working myself in a square, and I kind of do the same things over and over the same way? So what's helpful for me to kind of make sure I don't end up with just a pattern is when I fill up, and I should have done this over here, when you fill up your square, all right, so this is full, I turn my page. So I will be quilting something and I will turn it so that now I'm working in a different area. It's going a different way. So my things that are always kind of turning out sort of kind of the same end up still being really random. So you've got to learn how to make these random shapes. All right. And then now I'm going to turn again. And you can always start here at the edge and come over. You don't have to make it one continuous piece. So let me start right here and just make these nice, smooth, round little loops. And like I said, you'll come up with your own favorite shapes that you'll use over and over. But you have to be able to do it with a pen and paper before you try it on your fabric, because this takes a little muscle memory, is what they call it. So now that my eye is getting used to seeing these shapes and how they all fit together, there's my page. So that's how I would have quilted it. All right, so once you've mastered being able to do this without crossing your lines and having all kinds of trouble coming up with your shapes, and practice it several times, then you're ready to move on to actually working with your machine. The first thing I want to talk with you about is batting. If you did quilts back in the 80s and early 90s, you're used to having batting that's really fluffy, and this is polyfill. This isn't batting. I didn't have an example of the old kind of batting that we used to use that was just super high loft and really cushy and wonderful. It still makes great quilts, but it's not one that you would free motion quilt with. This one is one that's a polyester, much thinner and flatter, and I'm going to use that when I'm doing this practice one here that I'm going to show you. But it's nice low loft batting, but it's all polyester, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But a lot of people prefer to have natural material. So they will buy cotton batting or wool batting or stuff like that. But if you're just starting out and you're just learning, save your money and just buy really inexpensive polyester batting to start with. Now my other tip is I buy this kind of batting by the bolt when it goes on sale. Our fabric store is Joann's here in the United States that I use a lot. And when they have their like 60% off, I'll buy a bolt of this, and then I always have it ready. And my favorite to use is 80% cotton and 20% polyester. So it's got a lot of natural fiber and some polyester in it. Okay. And it's nice and soft. And the thing I love when you wash your blanket, most of the time you use your cotton fabric without being washed nowadays when you're making a quilt. All right. So when it washes and dries, the cotton shrinks just a little bit and it causes that puffiness to come up in your quilt. It's just beautiful. So that's just my preference, is the 80-20. Like I said, some people like 100% cotton or even wool, but the wool batting, as you can imagine, is really expensive. My other tip is when you're getting started, start small. This is maybe a 15-inch square. So it's going to give me plenty to work on, plenty to practice with, but it's not, don't start with a quilt. Start small and then use your practice pieces to make other things. We could use this to make a little zipper pouch like we did the other day, or you could do coin purses or pillows for your couch or whatever, but start small and just practice, practice, practice. So there's that. The other thing you see me use in my videos all the time is 505 spray. It's a spray adhesive and it's just temporary. It's kind of like a post-it note kind of tackiness. You put your quilt layers together, you use this spray. This spray is not cheap, but it lasts a really long time. So if you can buy this on sale, it's good too. So you give it a good shake. You should be doing this with a window open or outside or something because it has a smell to it. So you just spray it on and then get your fabric pressed down to it. This is really helpful in keeping what is called a quilt sandwich. Don't you love that? It's a sandwich. So you have your bread and your filling to make your sandwich. The other option is you use safety pins and you pin it every few inches to hold it all together. I find that really tedious. I find it really hard when it comes time to do your quilting, to keep them out of the way, taking them out as you go along. So invest in the 505 spray. So you do one side of your sandwich and then you turn it over and do the other. All right. And you just smooth it down. The other thing is, this is just old sheets that I'm doing. They're cotton sheets, and they came out of my stash, and they were really wrinkled because I didn't have them folded up. They were wadded up in a ball and stuck in my stash. So I took them out and I ripped it to the right size and ironed them. You do not want to start out with something that's already super wrinkled. That would give you a hard time. So there's that. Now, a word about sewing machines. My old white sewing machine that you see me use on my station all the time, it's my favorite sewing machine. And for whatever reason, it does not free motion quilt. It will not allow me to drop the feed dogs and do the stuff. It just messes it up. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if every old machine is that way. So if you have an old machine, you can try it. I've been tempted to ask my repairman, the guy that I take it in and have it serviced with sometimes, why that one will not let me free motion quilt. But right now, as of this video, I don't know why. My Bernina, which is fairly new, it does it beautifully. So if you're having trouble with it messing up, causing threads to break and just not doing it well, it might not be you. It could be your machine. So that's my word of wisdom there. Let's talk about the different kinds of feet. This one is called, well, they're both called darning feet or free motion quilting feet. This one does not go with my Bernina. This one goes, I purchased it to go with my white, and it's called an open toe. Do you see how that part right there is open? The nice thing about that is you can see your fabric underneath just a little bit better. The drawback is these feet here can get caught under stitches and cause trouble. So that's one of the trade-offs. This one is closed-toed. You can see it just has one center hole. And this is the one that's made for this machine, and it's the one I'm going to be using today. I have white bobbin thread in, and I put this blue in so that you could probably see just a little bit better as I do my sewing. So I pulled up my bobbin thread, and here's this. I made marks to kind of identify the 4 quadrants here on my fabric. You wouldn't have to do that. You get really good at figuring out where that is really quick. And so the other thing you do is you have to figure out where on your machine, these are called feed dogs. In normal sewing, this is what goes around like this and pulls your fabric through at the bottom. So you find the button or whatever it is where you can push it and your feed dogs go down, that they're not up anymore. So they're down, and now we're ready to start. All right. You put your presser foot down because that makes your sewing machine work right, but there is no, you are completely controlling all of this motion. Your sewing machine, if you put this in here and just left it, would just stay right there, no matter how much you push the sewing machine pedal. All right. So I'm going to twirl with my hand. I'm going to bring up that bobbin thread right there. All right, because we want it to be up here and not causing trouble below. So then I'm going to just sew a couple stitches. All right, and then I can trim this off, and I'm ready to go. And I'm going to do my very best to keep my hands out of the way so that you can see. So I have my foot on the foot pedal, and this is the part that is going to take a long time and lots of practice to get your stitches so that they're even. This is real time, and this is, I usually go a little bit faster, but not a ton faster than this. And you just keep working, and you remember those designs that we were drawing on our paper? This is where that comes in so handy, that you know about where to go with your fabric. And for me, it's when I do big swoopy curves like that, that's when I tend to kind of lose track of my pressure on my pedal, and I end up with big long stitches because I get going too fast. See how I do those kind of puzzle shape things, little knobs and twirls? So you have to keep your speed under control, and you can get going much faster if you want to. But see, I've already turned my work because for some reason I tend to want to go in lines and kind of the same. So by turning my work is very helpful to me. And have it end with your needle down. That would be easier. If you have a machine that will automatically do that, that's really great. So as your needle goes faster, you have to move this faster. So you have seen this in real time. So now I'm going to speed up my camera and I'll show you what it looks like when we finish it up. See a lot of it in the picture frame there that it's done. And is it perfect? No. Am I happy with every single stitch I made? No. Is it better than when I first started a few years ago? Yes, much better. It takes practice to be able to do all of this and keep your stitch length reasonably uniform, and to be able to continually go and make a pattern that doesn't cross over each other and looks nice when you're done. So when you're getting ready to do your free motion quilting, don't cut your pieces of fabric and batting the exact size that you want it to be, because it does pull up just a little bit when you're doing your quilting. So you will take some time after this and use a ruler and a rotary cutter, or a ruler and a pair of scissors, and square it up, because it will not stay completely square. If you've learned something on this video, or if you would like to share some tips, please leave them in the comments below. And until next time, this was Cindy from Vintage to New.